those tests, make sure that it's from, I think it's like Ancestry, not Ancestry.com, but one of those, like the ones that go into the ancient DNA, like they excavate the old graves of people, and then you'll notice that you have a lineage from people that were there that predated. Because to be honest, Europe itself was black. A lot of people are just starting to understand that as well. And it wasn't until just the past, I think 3,000 years that Europe actually became white because of people who came from the Caucasus Mountains and started spreading over. But that, that should be well documented, and people should know that. But when you start seeing those tests, it'll let you know that your lineage goes back to that location, because there were, when after the AD 70, when that temple was destroyed and the Romans went in and a lot of those black Jews start scattering, they went across to that Iberian Peninsula as well. A lot of people forget that. And then they also scattered to the east, and that's why you have the Limba, which I think I have a little clip on them I'm going to play too. But again, guys, I'm going somewhere with this, so I'm glad you guys are soaking up this game, because this is very important. You may not hear this anywhere else, especially within the context of how I'm saying it. But check this out right here.
You'll have to go to the footnotes. You will see there's got a lot of evidence produced for black Jewish communities in different parts of West Africa, which are not sort of based upon a particular reading of tribal history, let's put it like that.
Yeah, so he's right now admitting something that a lot of us who's researched this, we know to be fact, is that you already had those, quote, Jewish communities in West Africa. In fact, I have a book by Stephen Jacobs and Moses Farrar. It's a very good read. It's called The Hebrew Heritage of Black Africa. And you guys can look that up. I got it right here on my bookshelf. And that's what he's referring to. But the other thing I want you to pay attention to is what he's going to say about the Iberian Peninsula. So let's get it.
But are based on a fairly hard historical fact. And the this hard historical fact is...
Yeah, you got it, Israel. He said, yes, you're talking about mytrueancestry.com. I got a close match of an African Muslim buried in Italy. The Moors had reach even there. Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yeah, you got it. Yeah, that's the one I'm referring to, because those are the best tests, because it predates the current population. Because if you just do a modern DNA test, you're not going to get a match, because you're not related to the current population, because your ancestors were there that predated them. So just like I said, if you go back, if you're testing the remains of people that were buried specifically from the year 711 to 1492, that's when the black Jews and the Moors were running that area, and we have a direct lineage from them people. And those were the ones that got swept up into the Spanish Inquisitions, and the ones that got put on those ships during the Middle Passage and all of that, because they were first given the choice, either you convert or you have to leave, and a lot of them chose to leave, and they left and went to Africa. And the other reason why you know that was us is because this, if you look at those books that were written between the early 1800s, they are clearly talking about this happening to the, quote, Jews. And they were all, it was an open knowledge that they were all black. And my question is, why don't the Ashkenazis, why don't they identify with that history? Because it wasn't them. It was definitely everything that happened to those people is what happened to us. So, I mean, it don't take much if you know your history to be able to connect these dots. But let's get it.
It's the expulsion of the Jews from Spain and from Portugal at the end of the 15th century. So
that's what he's just talking about. You heard what he just said, right? I'm going to run it back real quick. You see how he started out talking about the Jews that were the Jews that were on the west coast of Africa, right? And now he's talking about basically what I just said when it came to the ones that were expelled from the Iberian Peninsula, which is Spain and Portugal. And he's talking about how that when they were expelled, they went down into Africa, and those were our forefathers. But let's go.
From Portugal at the end of the 15th century.
Yeah, that was at the end of the 15th century. And again, this is the type of information that the B-Dub and all the rest of them need to be telling their children. But because they're ignorant and they believe in the white racist version of history, which says that you were somewhere with a bone in your nose, running around naked, and you didn't have any culture, that's what they teach. And you will literally see these goofy broads making commentary, both verbally and writing comments, speaking like that. And that's because they're ignorant, and that ties into their self-hatred. And then they got the nerve to wonder why black boys don't have a good reading level, is because they don't want to keep hearing about how much of a loser they were in history, how much of a slave they were, how much they did not have a culture, and how the white man did everything. And they can't identify with history. They can't identify with any of this stuff. Their mother's not teaching them anything. They don't have fathers in their lives because their mother could not pick a dick right. So that's the reason why these boys are failing. And those of us who come from a good family, like myself, who had a mother who taught me things early, who took me to the library, took me to museums, got a library card when I was like 7, 8 years old, spending hours in the library reading, having test scores coming back 7th grade. I'm reading at a 11th, 12th grade level. Even though I tell the story, against my parents' wishes, I was still goofing off. Because I did enough to keep them off my back, but when I got to school, I was doing a bunch of BS. And so, like I told you, I had a guy pull me to the side one time, a substitute teacher, but I still was capable. I just didn't want to do it at the time. Nowadays, these boys don't even have the capability because they didn't come from a mother who was giving them the opportunity to learn their real heritage. And that ties into everything we're going to be talking about as far as this self-hate. But let's get a little bit more of this. And what is